Okay, Big Mike. Okay, this will give me a perfect chance to have a break and explain the women's tattoos. So I've mentioned the facial markings before for our people, but it's all good. I don't mind repeating it. That's what it's all about, sharing. So the facial markings, Big Mike. Now in our culture, yeah, we do. The males have the full facial markings and the ladies have the chin tattoo. Now, got to start from the start. So the first tattooist of our people, his name was Ue Tonga. So he was the first tattooist of our people. And the first recipient to receive the full facial markings, his name was Mataora. Now that's what the facial markings are named after, by the first recipient. So it's called a Mataora. And so from that story, so Mataora was the son-in-law to Ue Tonga. So he married his daughter Niwareka, who is the goddess of weaving. And so fast forwarding to the time of man. Now with this particular art form, brother, we use 3 sets of chisels, what we call uhi. Now they were like, but the things we use to apply the ink within the wound were actually bone fragments from birds, brother. And the main one being albatross. Yeah. So the albatross had hard, dense bones within its wings. So they were separated into 3 different sizes. The smaller one, or the much larger one actually, we go like that, was used to etch the blueprint lines within the face, kind of like scarification, brother. And then, yeah, once they had mapped it all out, so when they would start receiving these markings was around 13, when you become a teenager, if you will. So they would start out with the nose, and eventually start branching out from the face, right, everywhere else. Now with those tools again, brother, so the second tool was used, must have hurt like a bitch, you know, I bet it did. There are still some traditional tattoos that practice it, but I like the way my skin looks. But yeah, with that, so the second tool they would use is the uhi. So it's actually used by, so they would have like a thin long piece of hardwood, so rata for instance, and they would sit the bone fragment on top and tap away at the skin, kind of like our Polynesian cousins. But unlike them, how they apply ink within the skin, we actually carved into the skin. So that second one was used to carve out 2 millimeters to 3 millimeters worth of skin, so there was a lot of blood loss. A lot of our ancestors died receiving these markings too, but in our culture we say it's more of an honour to have them than to have none at all, because it tells the story of what you went through throughout your life. So from the eyelids down is a representation of your physical attributes. So if you're a hunter, a fisherman, or a weaver, gardener, you would receive markings from the eyelids right down to your legs. So it all depends what you did throughout your life that you would receive these particular markings. Now from the eyelids up is more for the spiritual side, so if you could navigate through the stars, communicate with the dearly beloved that have passed on, or pass down genealogy and do incantation, what we call karakia, like prayers. And you would receive markings on the head, maybe right back if you had no hair, but the head's one of the most sacred parts of our bodies because it holds all your knowledge, and it's the body part that's closest to the heavens. It's like if you touch someone's head, that's pretty much it. Yeah. In our culture, like even if someone touches my hair, I'll probably bop them. Yeah, so with that being said, brother, with the markings again, yeah, so all physical and spiritual. Now, with these markings as well, brother, why they received them? Because of the physical attributes that you may have, or the spiritual ones, but it's kind of like a CV or a resume. So if you see someone, so in the old days they would see another person with the markings, and then basically they knew where they were from, they knew what they did within their life. It's kind of like, yeah, CV or a resume, but Big Mike. And hold on, making sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, so CV or resume. And so with the third chisel, brother, what they would use, they would dip into ink pots. Now, particular things we use for our ink was paru, which was soot from the rivers. Sometimes red ochre clay was another one. A ngangara, which is a tree caterpillar, and tree bark, and they would mix it all together, brother, to make an ink. Applying it within the wounds and then sealing it with embers from a fire. So like cauterizing it. And so going off of that, brother, with the male's facial markings. Now, for the left hand side of our facial mask, brother, it was more for the mother's genealogy, the reason being it's closest to the heart. And the right hand side was obviously for our fathers. Now they wouldn't have the same design going the same exact way on each side, because if they did, big problem. Your parents were probably cousins. Now, my parents weren't cousins, so I wouldn't get the same markings. So they would slightly be different, and they're quite symmetrical, and yeah, they'd flow their own way, but they'd still match up. So they wouldn't be the same on either side. And so with the males, they have the full facial markings, and the ladies have the more compact chin tattoo. Now, it doesn't mean that the male's one is above the ladies, it's on the same level. The reason why the ladies' moko kaua is smaller and compact, because they go through enough pain already, bringing life into the world, childbirth. So why should they go through even more excruciating pain by carving the entire face? So it was all compact down to the chin. So once again, mother, father as well for them. And so it represents the night owl as well, which is one of our kaitiaki, or our guardians. It's a spiritual bird to us, the ruru or the night owl. And so the night owl is the bird that would watch over the village and guard while everyone was asleep. And the wahine, or the ladies, are the ones that look after the village during the day, nurturing the next generation. Yeah. So that's why the ladies receive the small compact chin tattoo. Yeah, childbirth. I mean, I'm not a lady, so I can't say, but from what I've heard, it's bloody painful. Yeah, that's just a little something on the markings, brother. And so with particular pieces too on the male's facial mask would all depend on what you did throughout your life. So the last pieces of your facial moko or your mataora wouldn't be filled in, so it's usually here until your parents pass away, and then you can have them with you for the rest of your life. Now, in the modern times, with my generation in particular, they're finding it hard to want to get their moko, because in today's society they think it's intimidating, gang related, but in reality it's probably one of the most spiritual things we have in our culture as well. Basically having your genealogy on your face for everyone to witness throughout the world, wherever you go. And particularly for the men, yeah, they're finding it hard because the stigma that modern society has put on it. But with the ladies, they actually, more and more females are wanting to receive their moko kauai. And so I went to a wānanga or a gathering one day where women were receiving their markings, and it was an entire meeting house full of ladies and grandmothers and younger ladies as well who had their chin tattoos, and it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in terms of our culture as well. So yeah, that's just a little something on the facial markings, Big Mike. Hope that was all good, and we'll get back to carving. Sorry if I missed anyone's subs. Jeez.